Hello everyone. So welcome to the next class of business law. Okay. And last class we have started a new unit where I believe we have covered one topic, and I just hope that you have gone through with those topics. Not those, that topic, I'm sorry, because only one topic I have covered. Okay. So now definitely we'll move to the next topic. Okay, so let's check out what is today's topic. So today's topic is contract of indemnity. Okay, so we'll check first as usual the meaning. Okay, very big meaning is written here. Okay, but I hope you will read because you are very good in that. So first we will just know what is actually the word indemnity implies. So actually the word indemnity always implies reimbursement against financial loss or protect someone from incurring a loss. Okay, and if I have to say that what is a good example, so good example of your contract of indemnity is your insurance companies. Okay, where definitely the insurer agrees to compensate the insured for any damages or losses he or she may incur during the period of time. Okay, for that what insured person has to do, insured person has to do the premium payment. Okay, just to like bind the agreement, and then insurer can return or compensate for the damages or losses which may arise in the future. Okay, so I if I'm not wrong, everybody used to go for the insurance, life insurance or the vehicle insurance or house, everything. Definitely we want to minimize our financial loss if at all anything or any damages are going to arise in the future. So that is your indemnity. Okay, security or protection against our financial liabilities. I hope it is clear. Okay, so we'll check next. Now the definition, it is as per the section 121 of Indian Contract Act. Okay, a contract by which one party promises to save the other from loss caused to him by the conduct of the promisor himself or by the conduct of any other person is called contract of indemnity. So one party is promising the other party that I will save you from the loss. Okay, maybe because of you that loss will arise, or maybe by some other person that loss will arise, but I will make your those losses good. Okay, so this is your contract of indemnity. Fine. Now we will check who all are the parties in your contract of indemnity. So there are two parties. One is indemnifier and another is indemnified or indemnity holder. Okay, so who are these two people? Just check out quickly here. The person who gives the indemnity is called indemnifier, and the person for whose protection is given is called the indemnity holder or the indemnified. So definitely, if in simple terms I have to say, so the person who is going to make your losses good will called as an indemnifier, and whose losses are going to be turned as good, that person will be, or that party will be known as an indemnity holder or the indemnified. So these two are your parties here. Okay, so next check out, sorry, what we have, we should have some of the essentials. Okay, see, from the starting, from the first class we are learning, okay, for any contract essentials are must and should. Okay, to make it valid, because if it will be valid, then only we can go for the enforceable by law. Okay, legal one. So contract of indemnity, we need as essentials, first of all, parties to the contract. So there must be two parties. Just now we have seen indemnifier and indemnified, so there must be a minimum two parties, one who will make losses good and one whose losses will become good. Okay, then next we have, it should be always for the protection of loss. Okay, always for the protection of loss. The purpose, okay, the purpose should be protecting the promisee from the loss. Okay, no other purpose. Only one purpose, that is protecting the promisee from the loss, and the loss may be caused due to the conduct of promisor or the any other person. Okay, this is another essential. Next we have expressed or implied. So the contract of your indemnity may be express, that is made by words spoken or written. In the first unit we have seen the types of contract, there we have gone which is your express and which is your implied, so you can refer back it. Okay, if you have patience, everything depend upon your patience and interest and willingness. Okay, so made by the words spoken or written, that will be here, or it can be implied also. Okay, it may be like forced by the conduct of parties or circumstances also in the particular cases. So maybe the contract of indemnity will become the implied one. Fine. Then essentials of valid contract. So whatever 8, 9, 10 or 11, I don't remember how many we have gone, the essentials of a valid contract. So make sure those essentials are present in your contract of indemnity. Okay, because the principles of general law of contract, whichever contained under your section 1-275 of Indian Contract Act, are applicable to contract of indemnity also. Okay, then we have one thing, number of contracts. So how many number of contracts are there? So if you can refer back this picture, you can see there is only one contract. Okay, there's only one contract, that is between indemnifier and indemnified. So same here, in a contract of indemnity there is only one contract, that is between the indemnifier and the indemnified. Okay, so no third party is there. Clear? Now next we have to check out what are the rights of promisee or the indemnified or the indemnity holder. Okay, who has got insured. Okay, so what are the rights? Very first right we have right to recover damages paid in a suit. Okay, and sections and all I have mentioned for you, so if you are very good in by hearting and keeping remember the things, you can go for the sections also. Okay, so what actually the right to recover damages paid in a suit is like any indemnity holder has the right to recover from the indemnifier all damages. Okay, all damages which he may be compelled to pay in any suit in respect of any matter, okay, to which the contract of indemnity applies. So for whichever matter you have signed the contract of indemnity, okay, so whenever damages will arise, all damages related to that subject matter, definitely an indemnity holder can recover from the indemnifier. Clear? Next we have a right to recover cost incurred in defending a suit. Okay, so if indemnity holder definitely have to suit for the recovery, and because of that indemnity holder has the right to recover from the indemnifier all cost, okay, all cost which he may be compelled to pay in any such suits. If, okay, it is not always that always he has to suit and always the expenses will arise, it's not, but if it is arise like in bringing or defending, okay, so in that cases the indemnity holder is having a full right to ask for those costs also, recovering those costs also from the indemnifier. Okay, then next have, see, generally it happens whenever you want to defend, okay, the suit. So in that cases you will have the cost, and if you are a winner, definitely you can ask those costs also from the indemnifier. Clear? Next we have a right to recover sums paid under compromise. Okay, so if you are a indemnity, if you are a indemnity holder, okay, that means you have the right to recover from the indemnifier all sums which he may have paid under the terms of any compromise, okay, any compromise of any such suit, if the compromise was not contrary, okay, if the compromise was not contrary to the orders of promisor. So while compromising also, if you getting or if you have a sum, then definitely you will get it paid under the terms and conditions by the indemnifier. Clear? So okay, just give me a second. You should not get again the some pop-ups. Okay, Sorry for that interruption. So these are your rights, or like what are the things any indemnity holder can enjoy. So these are your definitely the things which rights you can use. Okay, so I just hope that it is clear for you. In shortcut, just keep remember all damages, okay, which indemnity holder is going to get, it should be paid in any suit. Okay, and all costs which indemnity holder may have been paid to file the case or to defend the suit, that should be also recovered by the indemnifier, from the indemnifier. And all the sums which indemnity holder may have paid under the terms of any compromise of suit, that should be also recovered, okay, from the indemnifier. Clear? Now moving next. So now we'll move to the another topic for the day, that is contract of guarantee. Contract of guarantee. So first we'll go for the definitely or meaning. So what is contract of guarantee? Contract of guarantee is okay, in simple terms you can take it, a contract to perform the promises made or discharge the liability of the third person in case of his failure to discharge such liabilities. See, guarantee, I hope so many times you have heard, okay, in bank loans terms, loans and advances, where one person used to be debtor and one person used to be the creditor. Bank used to be the creditor and the person or the customer is going to become the debtor who is going to take the loan, and the person is supposed to provide some asset, okay, collateral assets as a security, and same time the debtor, okay, that is your who wants to take the loan, need to arrange some one or two guarantor. And guarantor is nothing, guarantor is going to give the assurance to the bank in case in future any moment if the debtor, okay, is not going to do the payment of loan amount, then on behalf of the debtor, guarantor will pay that. Okay, so that is your contract of guarantee. If you remember, just now I told you, okay, perform the promises made or discharge the liability of third person. Okay, the guarantor has not taken the loan, somebody else has taken the loan, but third person is going to discharge the liability. Okay, sorry, the guarantor is going to discharge the liabilities of the third person in case if he is not going to do the repayment, if it is going to failure, okay, to discharge his liabilities. Clear? So just for the as per the section definition, quickly we can read. Section 126 of Indian Contract Act defines a contract of guarantee as a contract to perform the promise or discharge the liability of the defaulting party. Okay, in simple meaning I said third party. Okay, so of the defaulting party in case he fails to fulfill his promises. So just simple example you can take, just suppose A is a creditor and B is a debtor and C is a guarantor. So whenever there is a contract happens between A and B, C will also come. And when C is going to sign very nicely a contract of guarantee with the A, okay, that means that whenever the B is going to become a defaulting party, C has to do the payment on behalf of B to the A. Okay, now next we'll check out what further we have. So here we have three parties. Okay, in case of your contract of indemnity, we had only two party and only one contract. Clear? But here we have a three party, and that's why we have the tri-party agreement also. Fine. Who are three party? Creditor, so in our example it was A, debtor in our example it was B, and the guarantor in our example it was C. So one contract between creditor and debtor, that will be definitely a main relationship, and then one contract between debtor and guarantor, and one contract or relationship between the guarantor and creditor. Okay, now so here I have just given you the meaning of each party, who will be which party. So if I am saying that principal debtor, then one who borrows, okay, or liable to pay on whose default the guarantee is given. So in simple terms, who is taking the loan. Clear? Then the creditor, the party who has given something, okay, of value to borrow and stands to receive the payment for such a thing and to whom the guarantee is given. So who is giving the loan? Principal debtor who is taking the loan, creditor who is giving the loan. Okay. And then we have the last party, surety or guarantor, the person who gives the guarantee to pay in case of default of the principal debtor. So if the principal debtor is going to default in terms of his repayment, so this surety or the guarantor is going to give the guarantee to the creditors that I will do the payment on behalf of the principal debtor. So these are your three parties. Now we have to again check here what are the essentials. Okay, so very first is must be made with the agreement of all three parties. So just always make sure it should be the free consent of all the three parties. Okay, it should not happen that suddenly you are going to give the shock to the guarantor saying after signing the contract and everything, and then you are going to suddenly call him that I have made you the guarantor. No, without his or her consent you can't make him or her as a guarantor. Okay, so there must be agreement, okay, of all three parties. Fine, principal, debtor and creditor and the surety, and all three has to sign the agreement that we are ready to play our roles or we are ready to take our responsibilities. Clear? Then we have a next essential as consideration. Okay, sorry, consideration I have not written, I'm real sorry. Next we have the liabilities. Fine, so always keep remember one thing, the liability of the surety is secondary. When we are saying that when the principal debtor is going to become a default payment maker, then the surety or the guarantor will do the payment. So here what happening, first liability, the prime liability is lying with your principal debtor, and the liability of the guarantor or the surety is secondary. Okay, first time no creditor is going to call the surety or guarantor only that you do the payment. No, first he has to approach the principal debtor, and if the principal debtor is not doing the payment, going to become a defaulter, then only the creditor is going to contact to the surety or the guarantor. Clear? So small difference also I'll tell you here. In case of, because we get sometimes question difference between contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee, and in the starting I have told you I am not going to give you any differences. Once you are going to understand the topics, you have to make your own. One difference is pending from your side still. Okay, so now the one difference, two differences I can make out here. Okay, in case of your contract of indemnity, definitely very simple, two parties are there, and in case of your contract of guarantee, three parties are there. In case of contract of indemnity, you have the only one contract. Okay, and in case of contract of guarantee, you have a three agreements. Okay, and in case of contract of indemnity, definitely the prime liability lies to the indemnifier. Okay, but in case of the contract of guarantee, the surety or the guarantor liability is secondary. Okay, so three differences done, remaining two you have to find out. Okay, now the next essential is must contain all the essentials of valid contract. So just like the contract of indemnity, in the contract of guarantee also make sure that all the essentials of your valid contract is available. Okay, whatever is there, like your free consent, valid consideration, offer and acceptance, okay, intention to create a legal relationship, each and every essential requirements is also should be fulfilled in case of contract of guarantee. Okay, then we have the next essential, presuppose the existence of a debt. Okay, so what we have seen, the main function of your contract of guarantee is to secure the payment of the debt, okay, which is taken by your principal debtor. So if there is no such debt existing, then there is nothing left for the surety to secure. If debt is existing, then only surety will come in the picture, and if there is no debt existing, then definitely there is nothing to secure by the guarantor. Clear? And even you have to keep remember here one more thing. In case of your time barred or void, okay, in case of your time barred debts or void contract, there will be no liability for the guarantor also. There will be no liability for the guarantor also. So in simple terms, if there is no principal debt, no valid guarantee will exist. Clear? Now the next we have to go, no concealment of fact. So the creditor, okay, should disclose to the guarantor the facts that are likely to affect the guarantor's liability. Okay, and if any guarantee is obtained by the concealment of any fact will be known as or considered as the invalid one. Okay, so don't conceal any material fact, like don't hide any material fact or don't try to show something else. Okay, it is a fact of A but you're showing that it is a fact of B. Kindly don't do that to avail the guarantee. If after this you are going to avail the guarantee, then it will be a invalid one. Even it should not be the misrepresentation of the fact. Okay, the creditor or the principal debtor should not do the misrepresentation of the fact in front of the or to the guarantor. In that case also it will be invalid, because see, whatever is affecting the guarantor's responsibility must be truly represented, because guarantor has to analyze each and everything and then only decide under the free consent whether I want to become a guarantor or not. Okay, so that should be there. So this much for the day, and your the topic contract of guarantee is not yet over. In next class we'll check the further also. Little more details are pending related to your contract of guarantee. So I hope in next class you will get another two differences between your contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee. So till then, thank you, have a nice day, enjoy your day and keep learning.